Before we begin, a quick and important disclaimer. The information provided in this comprehensive masterclass is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes and does not constitute formal legal, financial, tax, investment, or professional business advisory services. Starting and operating a consulting business in the United States involves significant variables, including complex federal regulations, nuanced state-by-state tax codes, and strict legal liabilities that require the specialized guidance of licensed professionals. Any references to potential outcomes, historical trends, revenue figures, or operational success are strictly illustrative and derived from specific case studies and broad market analyses. They are not to be interpreted as a promise or an expectation of personal success. The business landscape is inherently volatile, and past performance in the consulting sector does not dictate future results. We strongly advise all viewers to conduct their own rigorous due diligence and to consult with a certified public accountant, a qualified business attorney, and relevant local municipal authorities before legally incorporating an entity, signing client contracts, or assuming any financial risk. Right now, across the United States, a silent but devastating economic crisis is unfolding on almost every single main street, and 99% of the population is completely oblivious to it. According to recent market data and historical trends examining local commerce, over 33 million small businesses are currently registered in this country. Yet, a staggering percentage of them are entirely invisible to the consumers living just 3 blocks away from their storefronts. We are witnessing second and third generation family businesses, from high-end cosmetic dentistry practices in California to commercial roofing companies in Texas, systematically losing their market share. They are not losing because their services are inferior, and they are not losing because their work ethic has declined. They are losing because of a fundamental and catastrophic miscalculation of where human attention currently resides. They are still pouring billions of dollars annually into antiquated advertising vehicles like local radio spots, static billboards, and direct mailers that go straight into the recycling bin, while their competitors are aggressively monopolizing the digital feeds of their exact target demographic. This massive disconnect between the quality of a local business and their ability to capture digital attention has created the single greatest wealth transfer opportunity of our generation for those who know how to bridge the gap. However, here is the controversial truth that the entire online education industry desperately wants to hide from you. The era of the traditional social media manager is completely dead. The internet is currently flooded with opportunistic noise telling you to start a business by charging local owners $500 a month to post generic graphic design templates, wish their followers a happy Friday, and chase meaningless vanity metrics like likes and followers. That is a guaranteed race to the bottom, leading to immediate client churn and total burnout. Business owners in the United States do not care about your content calendar, and they certainly do not care about how aesthetically pleasing an Instagram grid looks. They care about one metric and one metric only: customer acquisition cost and return on investment. If you position yourself as someone who simply posts online, you are viewed as a highly expendable, low-level vendor. But if you position yourself as a social media consultant, an architect of digital attention who transforms raw platform traffic into a predictable, measurable pipeline of paying customers, you suddenly transition from a disposable expense to an absolutely indispensable partner. Later in this exact presentation, we are going to uncover a deeply counterintuitive pricing framework and a specific case study that reveals how a novice consultant based in Ohio managed to completely outbid a massive, multi-million-dollar agency out of New York for a lucrative corporate contract. They did not win the bid by undercutting the competition or charging less. They won the bid by charging nearly 3 times more, utilizing a psychological positioning strategy that reframed their service from a marketing cost into an operational necessity. But to understand how that is even mathematically or psychologically possible, we have to meticulously tear down the foundational mechanics of the consulting industry. You are watching this masterclass today because you intuitively recognize this massive shift in the economy. You see local businesses struggling to adapt to relentless algorithm changes, platform updates, and shifting consumer behaviors, and you realize there is a gaping void in the market for competent, strategic leadership. But you are also likely paralyzed by the sheer logistical friction of doing this correctly in the United States. You are drowning in questions about how to legally protect yourself, how to choose between a limited liability company and an S corporation, how to navigate the complex web of independent contractor tax structures, and how to draft airtight legal agreements that ensure you actually get paid for your strategic insights. Furthermore, you are likely struggling with imposter syndrome, wondering how you can possibly approach a seasoned business owner who has been operating for 30 years and convince them to hand you a high-ticket retainer when you do not have a massive portfolio of past successes. This masterclass is engineered to systematically eliminate every single one of those friction points. We are bypassing the superficial advice and diving deep into the actual granular mechanics of building a legally sound, structurally optimized, and highly profitable social media consulting firm from scratch. We are going to meticulously break down the exact operational blueprints used by top-tier consultants. You will learn the historical trends of client acquisition, discovering how to bypass the traditional, soul-crushing cold calling methods by utilizing highly targeted, asymmetric value propositions that force business owners to pay attention to you. We will dissect the psychology of the initial consultation call, providing you with a framework of strategic questions that diagnose a business's digital bottlenecks so accurately that the owner feels compelled to hire you on the spot. We are going to cover the precise methods for conducting a comprehensive digital audit, allowing you to present data-driven strategies rather than blind guesses. By understanding the critical difference between selling time and selling specialized knowledge, you will learn how to structure your consulting offers in a way that maximizes your revenue potential while minimizing the hours you actually spend executing deliverables. This is not about building a chaotic freelance hustle where you are chained to your laptop 24 hours a day, managing dozens of ungrateful clients for pennies. This is about establishing a premier consulting practice that commands authority, operates with high profit margins, and delivers undeniable, measurable value to the American business ecosystem. The landscape of commerce has permanently altered, and the businesses that survive the next decade will be the ones that receive the exact guidance we are about to outline. Let us begin dismantling the old models and constructing the foundation of your new consulting enterprise. The first step in constructing this foundation requires a complete psychological reset regarding what you are actually selling. As of the year 2026, the marketplace has become completely saturated with automated posting tools and artificial intelligence schedulers. If your primary value proposition is simply creating basic graphics and uploading them to social platforms 3 times a week, you are competing directly with software that costs $30 a month. You cannot build a sustainable United States-based consulting business on a race to the bottom against automation. Instead, you must evolve into a revenue architect. A strategic social media consultant does not sell posts, they sell the systematic acquisition of market share. They analyze a business ecosystem, identify exactly where the digital bottlenecks are occurring, and deploy targeted social media campaigns to drive measurable foot traffic, inbound phone calls, and qualified web leads. Imagine if you walked into a high-end landscaping company in Scottsdale, Arizona, that currently spends $5,000 a month on local magazine advertisements. The owner, let us call him David, has absolutely no idea how many actual customers read that magazine, how many call his office because of the advertisement, or what his exact cost per acquisition is. He is operating entirely on blind faith and historical inertia. Now imagine you step in not as a junior employee asking to manage his social media account, but as a specialized consultant who audits his entire customer journey. You demonstrate that by reallocating just $2,000 of that magazine budget into highly targeted, geofenced local video advertisements showcasing his team actually transforming a backyard, you can track every single dollar spent. You can show David exactly how many homeowners watched the video, clicked the tracking link, filled out an estimate request, and ultimately signed a $15,000 landscaping contract. You transition your service from a mysterious marketing expense to a mathematically proven profit center. To solidify this concept, let us examine a historical trend based on a recent case study involving an independent consultant named Emily, based out of Austin, Texas. Emily targeted the highly competitive local real estate market. Traditionally, real estate agents were approached by social media managers who offered to make their feeds look professional by posting stock photos of houses and generic market updates. Emily took a radically different and highly lucrative approach. She approached a mid-tier real estate brokerage and proposed a comprehensive social media consulting sprint. Instead of focusing on vanity metrics like follower growth, which has zero direct correlation to closing a mortgage, Emily focused entirely on identifying prospective buyers who were actively signaling moving intent online. She built a strategic funnel using short-form video content that answered the exact, localized questions Austin homebuyers were searching for in 2026, such as property tax shifts in specific zip codes and the reality of bidding wars in the current interest rate environment. Emily did not just post these videos and hope for the best. She consulted the brokerage on how to capture the viewer data, how to retarget those specific viewers with relevant property listings, and how to rigorously train their real estate agents to follow up with the inbound leads generated by the social media traffic. By positioning herself as a consultant who integrated social media directly into their sales pipeline, Emily was able to secure a monthly retainer of $6,000. The brokerage gladly paid this premium because Emily was directly responsible for driving trackable, high-intent leads that resulted in millions of dollars in closed home sales. She was not a disposable vendor. She was the architect of their new revenue stream. This is the exact paradigm shift you must make right now. You are not selling aesthetic social media feeds. You are selling a systemic solution to a business owner's most terrifying problem, which is the unpredictable nature of customer acquisition. Understanding this critical distinction dictates exactly how you must structure your service offerings and pricing models. You cannot walk into a consultation and offer a generic bronze, silver, and gold package based on the number of posts you will publish per week. That immediately commoditizes your expertise and puts you in the same category as an intern. Instead, your consulting packages must be structured entirely around specific business outcomes and the depth of strategic integration required to achieve those outcomes. A comprehensive social media consulting package should include an initial, deep dive forensic audit of their current digital footprint, extensive competitor analysis, meticulous customer avatar development, and a highly detailed strategic roadmap. You are charging for the intellectual property of your strategy first, and the execution of that strategy second. Many top-tier consultants in the United States operate on a model where they charge a significant upfront fee, sometimes ranging from $3,000 to $10,000, simply to deliver the strategic roadmap. The business owner can then choose to execute that roadmap themselves, hire an in-house employee to do it, or retain the consultant for an ongoing monthly fee to oversee the execution and continuously optimize the campaigns based on incoming market data. This decoupled model completely separates your time from your earning potential. When you charge for the strategy, you are being compensated for your specialized knowledge, your deep understanding of consumer psychology, and your mastery of the algorithmic platforms driving commerce. This requires a profound understanding of analytics. You must become completely fluent in the language of business metrics. You must be able to confidently sit across from a chief executive officer and explain their customer acquisition cost, their average order value, their lifetime customer value, and their return on ad spend. When you align your social media strategies directly with these specific financial metrics, the conversation completely changes. You are no longer asking for a marketing budget. You are proposing a mathematical investment where every dollar spent is tracked, measured, and optimized for maximum return. Furthermore, achieving this level of authority requires extreme specialization, often referred to as niching down. The days of the generalist marketing agency are completely over. If you attempt to serve restaurants, e-commerce brands, dentists, and roofing contractors all at the same exact time, your messaging will be far too diluted to resonate with any of them. A roofing contractor in Ohio faces entirely different seasonal challenges, regulatory hurdles, and customer pain points than a boutique clothing brand in Los Angeles. By selecting a specific vertical, you can deeply immerse yourself in the economics of that precise industry. You learn their specific jargon, their average profit margins, and the specific platforms where their customers spend the most time. This specialized knowledge allows you to craft highly tailored case studies and asymmetric value propositions that instantly position you as the undisputed industry expert, rather than a generic digital marketer looking for a quick paycheck. However, before you can confidently walk into a boardroom and demand a high-ticket retainer for your specialized knowledge, you must ensure that the very ground you are standing on is legally and structurally sound. Operating a consulting business without the proper legal framework in the United States is akin to building a skyscraper on a foundation of sand. One misunderstood tax regulation, one poorly drafted client contract, or one liability dispute can instantly dismantle years of hard work and expose your personal assets to devastating financial ruin. You need to know exactly how to shield yourself, how to formalize your entity, and how to structure your agreement so that you are completely legally shielded, regardless of how a client relationship unfolds. The exact steps to build this impenetrable legal and financial fortress, including the critical differences between corporate structures and the specific clauses your contracts must contain, are exactly what we must dissect next. When you step into the arena of high-ticket consulting, the very first critical error you must avoid is operating under your own name as a sole proprietor. In the highly litigious and complex legal landscape of 2026, conducting business without a formalized legal entity is an unnecessary and massive risk that can destroy your entire financial future before you even sign your first major client. Imagine if you are working with a regional medical spa, managing a highly sensitive campaign related to a new cosmetic procedure. Due to a simple miscommunication regarding a promotional offer or a poorly interpreted piece of marketing copy, the client faces a wave of negative public relations, regulatory scrutiny, and a massive loss of revenue. They decide to point the finger entirely at your consulting firm, claiming your strategic advice caused the disaster. If you are operating as a sole proprietor, your personal assets, including your personal checking account, your investment portfolios, your vehicle, and your family home, are directly exposed to potential litigation and financial ruin. This is precisely why the overwhelming historical trend among successful consultants is the immediate formation of a limited liability company, commonly known as an LLC. The primary function of an LLC is to create a legally recognized barrier, an impenetrable corporate veil, between your personal wealth and your business liabilities. By establishing this formal entity through the filing of articles of organization with your specific state, you ensure that if your business is ever sued or defaults on a debt, the plaintiff or creditor can generally only pursue the assets owned by the LLC itself, leaving your personal livelihood entirely protected. This single administrative step, which often requires naming a registered agent and drafting a comprehensive operating agreement, transforms you from an exposed, amateur freelancer into a legally insulated and highly professional corporate entity. However, simply forming an LLC is only the defensive half of the equation. The offensive strategy involves understanding how to optimize your tax classification as your consulting revenue begins to scale aggressively. This brings us to a critical financial inflection point that highly profitable consultants utilize to preserve their capital, known as the S-corporation tax election. To understand this potential outcome, let us examine a specific case study of a consultant named Marcus who is based in Miami, Florida. During his first full year of operating a standard single-member LLC, Marcus successfully generated $150,000 in net profit through his advanced social media consulting services. Under the default tax structure enforced by the Internal Revenue Service, Marcus was subjected to the standard self-employment tax on that entire sum. This tax covers both the employer and employee portions of Medicare and Social Security, resulting in a massive 15.3% tax liability right off the top, before standard income taxes were even calculated. This severe tax burden significantly stunted his ability to reinvest capital into software, advertising, and team expansion for his growing agency. However, after consulting with a certified public accountant who specialized in service-based businesses, Marcus elected to have his LLC taxed as an S-corporation for his second fiscal year. This highly nuanced maneuver allowed him to become an official employee of his own company. He began running formal payroll and paying himself what the IRS defines as a reasonable salary of $70,000 for his role as the lead consultant. This $70,000 salary was still subject to standard employment taxes, but the remaining $80,000 in profit was distributed to him as a shareholder dividend. Under the tax code in 2026, those specific dividend distributions were completely legally exempt from the self-employment tax. By making this one structural adjustment and implementing proper payroll systems, Marcus potentially saved over $12,000 in a single fiscal year. This dramatically highlights the absolute necessity of aligning yourself early with a competent financial professional who understands the specific tax advantages available to consulting businesses in the United States, rather than attempting to navigate the federal tax code blindly. Once your legal entity and tax structure are solidified, you must establish the rigid operational boundaries of your service through an ironclad consulting agreement. Handshake deals, verbal confirmations, and informal email threats are the absolute graveyard of naive consultants. A professionally drafted legal contract is not simply a bureaucratic formality. It is the exact mechanism that ensures you are financially compensated for your intellectual property and dictates precisely what you are responsible for delivering to the client. The most catastrophic mistake new consultants make in this industry is failing to define the specific scope of work with extreme granularity. Imagine if you are hired by a local restaurant group in Chicago to audit their digital presence and develop a comprehensive strategy for the upcoming holiday season. If your contract vaguely states that you will provide ongoing social media services for $3,000 a month, the restaurant owner can and will easily exploit that ambiguity. As the weeks progress, they might suddenly demand that you also travel to their locations to photograph their new menu items, manage their daily customer service emails, respond to every single online review, and write all the copy for their new website, effectively turning you into a full-time, radically underpaid employee. A properly structured consulting agreement prevents this deadly phenomenon, known as scope creep, by rigidly defining the exact deliverables, the precise timeline for completion, and the specific number of revision rounds permitted. More importantly, it explicitly lists what is strictly excluded from your service. It establishes strict operational boundaries that protect your valuable time and preserve your profit margins. Furthermore, your contract must include robust clauses designed to protect you from volatile client behavior and unforeseen circumstances. You must incorporate a strict payment schedule that requires a significant upfront deposit, often 50 to 100% of the first month retainer, before a single hour of strategic work begins or any intellectual property is handed over. Top-tier consultants never finance their clients' businesses by working on the hope of future payment. You must also include a comprehensive kill fee clause. If a client abruptly decides to abandon a project halfway through your strategic audit because their internal priorities shifted, this clause ensures you are still compensated for the time and resources you have already expended. Additionally, a limitation of liability clause is absolutely non-negotiable. This critical paragraph explicitly caps the amount of financial damages a client can claim against you if a social media campaign underperforms their initial expectations. You are a strategic advisor providing market-tested frameworks, not a magician who can manipulate consumer free will. If a client has a fundamentally terrible product, an uncompetitive pricing model, or severely lacking customer service, no amount of brilliant social media consulting can save them from eventual failure in the open market. Your contract must legally sever your responsibility from macroeconomic factors and internal business operations that are completely outside of your direct control. By securing these legal parameters and presenting a highly sophisticated contract, you project an aura of absolute professionalism that immediately commands respect from even the most seasoned business owners. You position yourself as a highly structured peer and a serious business entity, rather than a desperate, easily manipulated vendor. With your legal foundation built, your tax strategies optimized, and your contractual armor completely secured, you are now fully prepared to enter the market and acquire high-value clients. But here is the brutal reality that completely stops most new consultants before they even secure their first meeting. The traditional methods of client acquisition are completely broken and highly inefficient in today's landscape. If you attempt to grow your consulting business by sending thousands of generic, copy and pasted direct messages on networking platforms, or by cold calling aggressive gatekeepers at local dental offices, you will be met with immediate rejection and overwhelming psychological friction. The successful business owners who actually have the liquid capital to afford a $5,000 monthly retainer are aggressively shielded from traditional sales tactics. They completely ignore cold emails, they instantly delete unsolicited promotional messages, and they absolutely never answer phone numbers they do not recognize. To penetrate this invisible barrier and actually secure a dedicated seat at the table with highly lucrative decision-makers, you must deploy a completely different psychological framework. You have to stop desperately chasing clients and start engineering highly specific situations where they actively seek out your specialized expertise. The exact step-by-step mechanism for achieving this total reversal of pursuit, utilizing a highly advanced client acquisition strategy known as the Trojan horse audit, is precisely what we are going to dissect in the next phase of this masterclass. The Trojan horse audit is not merely a marketing tactic. It is a profound psychological repositioning tool that completely short-circuits the defensive mechanisms of a modern business owner. In the highly saturated digital economy of 2026, a successful entrepreneur is bombarded daily by an endless barrage of automated emails, artificial intelligence-generated direct messages, and overseas telemarketers, all promising to drastically increase their revenue or magically double their follower count overnight. Consequently, these decision-makers have developed severe banner blindness and a deep, ingrained skepticism toward anyone claiming to be a digital marketing expert. When you approach them asking for 15 minutes of their valuable time to pitch your services, you immediately categorize yourself as a common pest taking value away from their day. The Trojan horse audit fundamentally reverses this dynamic by leading with undeniable, highly customized, and completely free intellectual property. Instead of asking for their time, you are gifting them a localized, data-driven analysis of their own business vulnerabilities. You are diagnosing a critical financial leak they likely did not even know existed, and you are doing it before a formal introduction has even taken place. To illustrate the raw power and historical trends associated with this specific methodology, let us analyze a recent case study involving a consultant named Jessica, who operates out of Denver, Colorado. Jessica decided to aggressively target the highly lucrative niche of multi-location sports physical therapy clinics. Traditionally, a novice consultant would compile a list of 50 clinics, send out 50 generic emails claiming they can run better Facebook advertisements, and receive exactly 0 responses. Jessica understood that to capture the attention of a busy clinic owner, she needed to provide asymmetric value. She identified a prominent local clinic owner named Robert, who operated 3 highly successful facilities, but possessed a completely stagnant digital footprint that had not evolved since the previous decade. Instead of cold calling Robert, Jessica spent exactly 45 minutes conducting a ruthless forensic digital audit of his entire online ecosystem. Using basic screen recording software, Jessica created a highly personalized, 4-minute video. She did not start the video by introducing her agency, listing her credentials, or begging for a meeting. The very first frame of the video was a side-by-side comparison of Robert's outdated Instagram page, alongside the hyper-optimized, video-first social media presence of his most aggressive local competitor. In a calm, highly professional and strictly educational tone, Jessica meticulously dismantled the invisible revenue leak occurring within Robert's practice. She demonstrated clearly that while Robert was likely spending thousands of dollars a month on highly competitive local search engine marketing for terms like Knee Pain Relief Denver, his competitor was systematically capturing the exact same demographic for a fraction of the cost by deploying short-form, localized educational videos demonstrating simple mobility exercises. Jessica pointed out specific technical errors on Robert's current social platforms, such as broken tracking pixels, highly ineffective call-to-action buttons, and a complete lack of retargeting infrastructure for website visitors. She did not present opinions. She presented objective, undeniable market data. Crucially, at the end of this highly dense, deeply valuable 4-minute audit, Jessica did not pitch a monthly retainer. She did not ask him to sign a contract. She simply stated that she was a local social media consultant specializing in the physical therapy sector. She noticed these critical inefficiencies, and she wanted to provide this analysis strictly as a professional courtesy. She concluded by casually mentioning that if Robert wanted to discuss how to implement the solutions she just outlined, he could reply to the message, but if not, he was free to hand the video directly to his current internal marketing team to fix the glaring errors. This specific delivery mechanism completely neutralizes the high-pressure sales environment. Jessica bypassed the clinic's front desk gatekeepers entirely by sending this video link directly to Robert's personal LinkedIn inbox, accompanied by a brief, highly targeted message that simply read, "Robert, I noticed a significant localized traffic leak in your current patient acquisition strategy compared to your main competitor downtown. I recorded a brief 4-minute breakdown of the exact data. Hope this is helpful." Imagine if you are Robert. You are a highly analytical, fiercely competitive business owner. You receive a personalized video from a local specialist who has taken the time to thoroughly analyze your specific business, point out exactly how your biggest rival is outmaneuvering you in the digital space, and provide the exact architectural blueprint to fix the problem, all completely for free and with absolutely zero high-pressure sales tactics. The psychological principle of reciprocity instantly takes hold. Furthermore, Jessica has immediately established absolute, undeniable authority. She is no longer a random vendor sending spam. She is a highly competent strategic advisor who clearly understands the economics of patient acquisition better than his own internal staff. The potential outcomes of this hyper-targeted approach are exponentially higher than any volume-based cold outreach strategy. In this specific case study, Robert watched the video 3 times, forwarded it to his clinical directors, and personally replied to Jessica within exactly 2 hours, requesting a formal meeting for the following Tuesday. By utilizing the Trojan horse audit, Jessica bypassed months of frustrating networking events, eliminated the need to spend a single dollar on her own advertising, and instantly secured a high-level consultation with a qualified buyer who was already entirely convinced of her technical competence. You must transition your mindset from a volume game to a precision game. You do not need to send out 1,000 terrible emails to secure a client. You need to identify 10 highly qualified, high-revenue businesses in your local or regional market, spend the necessary time to conduct a legitimate, deep dive forensic analysis of their current digital shortcomings and deliver that analysis in a format that proves your undeniable expertise. You are diagnosing the illness before you ever attempt to prescribe the medication. However, securing that initial meeting is merely crossing the starting line. Once you are sitting across the table from a seasoned entrepreneur like Robert, or facing them on a high-stakes video conference call, the dynamic completely shifts again. They have recognized your competence, but they are now heavily guarding their financial resources. They are waiting for the other shoe to drop. They are expecting you to launch into a desperate, high-pressure sales pitch. If you simply pull out a generic slide deck and start listing your hourly rates or your basic social media management packages, you will instantly undo all the immense psychological authority you just built with the audit. You will be politely thanked for your time and shown the door. To successfully transition from the initial Trojan horse audit into a signed, high-ticket consulting agreement, you must orchestrate a highly sophisticated, multi-phase consultation process that forces the business owner to actively sell themselves on the absolute necessity of your services. How do you navigate that intense, high-stakes conversation, accurately diagnose their deepest operational pain points, and present a $5,000 to $10,000 strategic roadmap without sounding like a desperate salesperson? That precise psychological framework and the exact phrasing required to close the deal is exactly what we must dissect next. The moment you transition from the digital realm into a live consultation, whether that is across a polished mahogany boardroom table or through a high-definition video conference, your entire physiological posture and verbal framework must mirror that of a highly specialized medical surgeon, not a desperate street vendor. This is the diagnostic phase. The single most catastrophic error a novice consultant makes in this exact environment is succumbing to the overwhelming pressure of the silence and immediately launching into a breathless monologue about their own agency, their proprietary methodologies, and their comprehensive list of services. By doing this, you instantly commoditize yourself. You revert from the authoritative expert who delivered that brilliant Trojan horse audit back into a standard, interchangeable salesperson. To maintain control and orchestrate a highly lucrative outcome, you must completely invert the traditional sales dynamic. You must adopt a framework built entirely around the Socratic method of strategic inquiry. You are not there to tell them how great you are. You are there to ask highly calibrated questions that force the business owner to vividly articulate their own operational pain, their stagnant revenue metrics, and their deep-seated frustrations with their current digital trajectory. Imagine if you are sitting across from a seasoned entrepreneur named Thomas, who owns a highly successful chain of independent luxury hardware stores across the Pacific Northwest in the year 2026. Thomas has been in business for 40 years, his overhead is massive, and he is highly skeptical of digital marketing because he has been burned by amateur agencies in the past. If you start pitching him a $5,000 a month social media package, his internal defensive walls will instantly skyrocket. Instead, you open the dialogue by referring back to the specific data points you uncovered in your initial audit. You calmly state that you noticed a severe drop in localized foot traffic compared to his aggressive new competitors, and then you ask a single surgically precise question. You ask Thomas, when you look at your overall customer acquisition strategy for this current fiscal quarter, how much of a financial impact is this specific digital bottleneck currently costing your operation? Notice the profound psychological weight of that question. You are not asking if he wants to buy social media services. You are forcing him to verbally confront a massive financial leak that he is actively ignoring. When Thomas attempts to deflect or gives a vague answer, you do not let him off the hook. You dig deeper with immense professional empathy. You ask about his average order value, his lifetime customer value, and the exact conversion rate of his current website traffic. As Thomas begins to realize that he does not actually know the answers to these fundamental economic questions, a critical shift occurs. He stops viewing you as a vendor trying to extract money from his budget, and he begins to view you as a strategic financial advisor who is actively trying to stop his business from bleeding capital. This is the exact moment you establish absolute dominance in the negotiation. You are leading the witness, step by step, down a logical path where they mathematically prove to themselves that they desperately need your intervention to survive the changing economic landscape. Let us analyze a concrete case study of how this conversational architecture plays out in real time. Consider a consultant named Sarah, operating out of Atlanta, Georgia, who secured a meeting with a high-end med spa clinic that specializes in advanced regenerative therapies. The clinic owner, Dr. Evans, was currently spending $8,000 a month on highly inefficient print advertising and broad radio spots, while his competitors were heavily dominating the local market through localized, educational short-form video content. During the consultation, Sarah did not show a single slide deck or present a single pricing tier. Instead, she spent the first 40 minutes exclusively asking Dr. Evans about his patient lifetime value, his current cost to acquire a new patient, and the exact capacity of his clinic. She guided him to the realization that his clinic was operating at only 60% capacity, because his ideal demographic had completely migrated their attention away from the traditional media platforms he was heavily funding. Once Dr. Evans actively admitted that his current strategy was entirely broken and actively harming his profit margins, Sarah introduced a concept known as the cost of inaction. She did not focus on what her consulting fee would be. She focused entirely on the massive amount of revenue he was permanently losing every single month. He delayed fixing this critical digital infrastructure. She projected that based on current market trends and historical data from similar clinics in the region, his failure to capture the local digital market share was potentially costing him upwards of $30,000 a month in uncaptured patient lifetime value. By anchoring the conversation to this massive, painful number, Sarah completely reframed the context of her own fee. She was not an expense. She was the immediate financial cure to a hemorrhage he had just acknowledged. When it is finally time to transition the conversation toward a formal partnership, you must structure the presentation of your services not as a list of deliverables, but as a rigid, multi-phase strategic roadmap. You do not tell the client you are going to post on social media 5 times a week. You explain that phase 1 consists of a comprehensive digital architecture overhaul, where you will rebuild their tracking pixels, optimize their conversion funnels, and establish their core brand narrative. You explain that phase 2 is the aggressive market penetration phase, deploying targeted, geofence campaigns designed strictly for lead generation. You explain that phase 3 is continuous algorithmic optimization, where you analyze the incoming data to lower their customer acquisition cost month over month. By breaking your service down into these highly technical, authoritative phases, you elevate the perceived value of your knowledge to an institutional level. Sarah used a highly specific linguistic bridge to close her meeting. She did not ask if Dr. Evans wanted to hire her. She calmly stated that based on the metrics they had just discussed, resolving this patient acquisition bottleneck required a highly structured, 90-day strategic overhaul of his entire digital ecosystem. She then asked, "Is this a priority you want to attempt to solve internally with your current staff? Or is this something you would prefer to partner with my firm to systematically architect for you?" This phrasing is a masterclass in psychological positioning. By giving him the option to do it himself, she completely removes the pressure of the sale, while simultaneously highlighting the overwhelming complexity of the task. Dr. Evans, knowing his internal medical staff was completely incapable of executing such an advanced technical roadmap, immediately chose the partnership. He signed a comprehensive consulting agreement with a substantial upfront strategic fee and an ongoing monthly retainer, not because Sarah had an aesthetically pleasing portfolio, but because she fundamentally understood the mathematics of his business better than he did. However, achieving this level of seamless agreement is not the standard reality for every single pitch, and you will inevitably face massive resistance when you finally reveal the exact numerical value of your high-ticket retainer. Even when a business owner fully understands the value you bring and desperately wants your help, their primal financial instincts will trigger severe objections. They will claim the price is too high, they will ask for a discount, they will want to start with a smaller trial period, or they will insist on consulting their business partners before making a final decision. If you flinch, stutter, or immediately lower your price during these critical moments of friction, you instantly destroy your authority and lose the contract entirely. You must be equipped with an impenetrable arsenal of psychological frameworks designed to completely neutralize every single financial objection a business owner can possibly throw at you. How do you hold your ground when a multi-million-dollar executive stares you down and demands a cheaper rate? And what are the exact conversational scripts you must memorize to effortlessly pivot their focus away from the price tag and back onto the massive financial return you are going to generate? The exact methodology for dismantling these intense pricing objections and securing the signature on your contract is precisely what we must meticulously uncover next. The moment you present your finalized strategic roadmap and reveal the exact numerical value of your high-ticket retainer, the entire dynamic of the room will instantly compress. You might state that your comprehensive consulting fee is $6,000 a month, and the immediate, almost involuntary reaction from the business owner will be a physical flinch. They will lean back, cross their arms, and state that the figure is entirely out of their current marketing budget. This specific moment is where 95% of amateur consultants completely panic and destroy their own businesses. Overcome by the uncomfortable silence and desperate to secure a signed contract, they immediately backpedal. They frantically offer a 20% discount, or they suggest stripping away core components of their strategy just to secure a yes. This reaction instantly signals to the highly experienced entrepreneur sitting across from you that your initial price was completely arbitrary, and worse, that you do not actually believe in the mathematical value of your own strategic intervention. Instead of retreating into a defensive posture, you must deploy a highly advanced psychological negotiation technique known as value anchoring, specifically utilizing the cost of inaction framework. To understand how this operates in a real-world environment, let us examine a specific historical trend from early 2026 involving a consultant named Christopher, who operates out of Dallas, Texas. Christopher was sitting in the boardroom of a massive regional roofing and exterior remodeling company. He had just executed a flawless Trojan horse audit and pitched a comprehensive digital infrastructure overhaul, coupled with a highly targeted local lead generation campaign, for a substantial $8,000 monthly retainer. The owner of the company, a notoriously aggressive negotiator named Richard, immediately scoffed at the proposal. Richard leaned forward and stated that he could easily hire a local college in turn to run all of their social media accounts for a fraction of that cost. Christopher did not get defensive, he did not launch into a passionate defense of his own skills, and he certainly did not lower his price by a single dollar. He remained completely silent for exactly 4 seconds, allowing the immense tension of the room to settle, establishing absolute baseline authority, and then he systematically dismantled the objection. Christopher looked directly at Richard and utilized a highly specific conversational script. He calmly acknowledged that Richard could absolutely hire an intern for $1,500 a month to simply post pictures of completed roofs on the internet. But then, Christopher aggressively pivoted the focus back to the painful operational data they had uncovered earlier in the consultation. He reminded Richard that based on the internal metrics they just reviewed, the company's current customer acquisition cost using outdated traditional media was sitting at roughly $800 per closed contract. Christopher stated firmly that his consulting firm was not there to post pictures or manage vanity metrics. He explained that his team was there to mathematically reduce that specific acquisition cost by 30% over the next 90 days by capturing high-intent digital traffic that their current traditional media simply could not reach. Christopher then laid out the raw mathematics. He explained that if his strategy successfully lowered the acquisition cost by just $200 per contract, and the company was closing 50 contracts a month, that equated to $10,000 in pure, preserved profit every single month. Christopher concluded by stating that Richard was not paying him $8,000 to manage a software platform, but rather he was investing $8,000 to fundamentally repair a bleeding artery in his sales pipeline that was actively costing him hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in uncaptured market share. By masterfully pivoting the conversation away from the abstract, highly emotional concept of a marketing expense and directly tying his consulting fee to the specific, undeniable operational mathematics of the business, Christopher completely neutralized the objection. He forced the owner to view the retainer not as a sunk cost, but as a high-yield, deeply leveraged financial investment. This is the exact intellectual framework you must internalize. Whenever you are hit with an intense price objection, you must gracefully redirect their attention back to the massive cost of their own inaction. You must clearly and unemotionally articulate that the financial damage of maintaining their current broken digital system is significantly more expensive than your specialized consulting fee. Another highly common, yet entirely destructive objection you will inevitably face is the request for a preliminary trial period. A business owner will frequently state that they are incredibly impressed by your strategy, but they want to start with a smaller, $1,000 package for 30 days just to see how the market reacts before committing to the full roadmap. Agreeing to this proposition is absolute business suicide. In the highly complex, algorithmically driven digital landscape of 2026, it is structurally impossible to overhaul a neglected digital ecosystem, launch targeted localized campaigns, gather statistically significant consumer data, and prove massive financial outcomes in a mere 30 days on a severely compromised budget. If you accept a trial period, you are setting your consulting firm up for a high probability of failure and immediate termination. Imagine if you walked into a highly specialized orthopedic clinic with a severely torn ligament, and the leading surgeon informed you that the complex repair would cost $10,000 and require 6 months of aggressive, highly structured physical therapy. You would never look at the surgeon and ask to try just 1 week of physical therapy for $50 to see if it magically heals the ligament first. The surgeon would flatly refuse to treat you because they fundamentally understand that a partial, underfunded implementation of a medical protocol yields absolutely zero results and potentially causes further damage. You must adopt this exact same level of clinical, uncompromising authority. When a prospective client requests a drastically reduced trial period, you must confidently educate them on the concept of algorithmic maturity. You must inform them with complete professional detachment that modern social media advertising platforms utilize highly advanced machine learning models that require a strict minimum of 60 to 90 days of consistent data ingestion to properly calibrate and identify their most profitable local demographic. You explain that a 30-day, low-budget trial will only result in them wasting their capital and incorrectly concluding that digital market penetration does not work for their specific industry. You state clearly that your firm does not engage in short-term experiments because historical trends prove they severely damage long-term growth potential. You emphasize that you only partner with organizations fully prepared to execute a complete, 90-day strategic sprint. This uncompromising, highly disciplined stance paradoxically increases their deep psychological desire to work with you, because it demonstrates extreme confidence in your operational protocols and entirely separates you from the desperate freelancers begging for a quick paycheck. By mastering these advanced psychological frameworks and rigidly holding your ground, you transform the most terrifying part of the consultation into a systematic, predictable process of establishing absolute industry authority. You stop negotiating from a position of financial desperation and start dictating the exact terms of engagement as a high-level strategic advisor. You confidently navigate the friction, secure the massive initial deposit, and successfully execute the binding consulting agreement. But the exact moment the ink dries on that high-ticket contract, an entirely new and far more dangerous phase of the business begins. You have successfully sold the magnificent architectural blueprint, but now you are entirely responsible for actually constructing the building. If you mishandle the first 30 days of the client relationship, fail to establish rigorous communication boundaries, or suffer from immediate execution paralysis, that highly lucrative client will experience severe buyer's remorse, demand a full refund, and potentially destroy your regional reputation before you even launch your first campaign. The exact operational mechanics of an infallible client onboarding system, designed to completely eliminate friction and facilitate flawless execution, is exactly what we are going to dissect in the next crucial phase. The exact moment the ink dries on that high-ticket contract, an entirely new and far more dangerous phase of the business begins. The wire transfer clears, the massive initial deposit hits your corporate account, and you feel an incredible surge of victory. However, on the exact opposite side of that transaction, your new client is experiencing a severe psychological phenomenon known as post-purchase dissonance, commonly referred to as buyer's remorse. In the highly volatile economic climate of 2026, a business owner parting with a $5,000 or $10,000 strategic fee is a massive leap of faith. Their brain instantly floods with anxiety. They begin questioning if they made a colossal mistake, if you are actually capable of delivering the promised outcomes, or if they just hired another charismatic fraud. If you operate like an amateur and go completely silent for 48 hours while you internally organize your files, that anxiety metastasizes into full-blown panic. The client will immediately regret the decision, their trust in your authority will completely evaporate, and you will spend the next 90 days defensively fighting to win back their confidence instead of aggressively executing your digital roadmap. To permanently neutralize this psychological threat, you must engineer an infallible, heavily automated client onboarding system that initiates the exact second the contract is signed. Imagine if you are a high-net-worth individual checking into a luxury 5-star resort. You are not left wandering the lobby looking for your room. You are immediately greeted, handed a curated itinerary, and guided flawlessly through a highly orchestrated sequence of events that mathematically guarantees your comfort. Your consulting firm must operate with this exact level of operational dominance. The instant the payment is processed, your system must automatically deploy a comprehensive digital welcome packet. This is not a generic 2-sentence thank you email. This is a highly polished, strategically designed digital environment that instantly reinforces their buying decision. The historical trend among elite United States-based consultants reveals that the most effective welcome sequence begins with a customized, pre-recorded video from you, the lead consultant. In this brief video, you enthusiastically validate their decision to invest in their digital infrastructure, You confidently reiterate the specific financial outcomes you are targeting, and you explicitly outline the exact sequential steps that will occur over the next 72 hours. You are seizing absolute control of the narrative and demonstrating that you possess a rigid, highly organized operational framework. Immediately following the welcome video, the client must be directed to a proprietary intake portal. A massive point of friction in this industry is the chaotic, disorganized collection of brand assets. If you are sending dozens of scattered emails asking a busy chief executive officer for their high-resolution logo files, their brand color hex codes, and their historical customer data, you look like a highly disorganized intern. Instead, you utilize a centralized, secure digital form. Let us examine a case study of a highly successful consultant named Olivia, operating out of Seattle, Washington in 2026. Olivia recently secured a massive contract with a regional commercial plumbing enterprise. She did not ask the owner, David, to email her a handful of pictures. She sent him a link to her agency portal, which contained a meticulously structured intake questionnaire. Olivia's questionnaire did not just ask for basic login credentials, it extracted deep, forensic business intelligence. She asked David to detail the top 3 most common objections his sales team faces on the phone. She asked for the specific geographical zip codes where their profit margins were the highest. She required him to upload past customer complaint logs so she could understand the exact pain points of his local demographic. She asked for a detailed breakdown of their seasonal revenue fluctuations. By forcing the client to provide this granular level of operational data, Olivia was not just gathering assets. She was continuously reinforcing her position as a high-level strategic advisor who integrates deeply into the economic mechanics of the company. Simultaneously, you must address the critical and highly sensitive process of credential acquisition. In 2026, asking a client to text you the password to their primary Instagram account or their Facebook business manager is a massive violation of basic cybersecurity protocols and immediately signals profound incompetence. You are dealing with highly valuable digital real estate. You must utilize enterprise-grade password management software or dedicated agency access, links that allow the client to grant your firm secure, encrypted administrative permissions without ever revealing their actual passwords. You must provide them with step-by-step, highly visual documentation on exactly how to approve these access requests within their specific platform settings. When you handle their digital security with this level of extreme clinical precision, you project an aura of absolute institutional trust. Once the intake portal is completed and the digital assets are securely transferred, you transition to the most critical interaction of the entire partnership, which is the formal strategic kickoff call. This is not a casual brainstorming session where you ask the client what kind of videos they want to make. This is a highly structured transfer of command. You are bringing the client into your operational universe. During this intensive video conference, you present a highly visual week-by-week visualization of the upcoming 90-day sprint. You show them exactly when the initial digital audit will be finalized, precisely when the first creative assets will be deployed, and exactly when they can expect to review the first batch of algorithmic data. Transparency completely eliminates client anxiety. When a business owner knows that week 1 is strictly dedicated to pixel implementation and back-end tracking architecture, they do not call you on day 3 demanding to know why a video has not gone viral yet. Furthermore, the kickoff call is the exact moment you must establish impenetrable communication boundaries. This is where most consultants fail miserably, effectively turning themselves into underpaid 24-hour employees. You must clearly and unemotionally dictate your service level agreements. You inform the client that your firm operates on a strict communication schedule. You explain that all strategic correspondence must occur within a centralized project management software, never via disorganized text messages or direct messages on social platforms. You state firmly that your office hours are from 9 in the morning to 5 in the evening, Monday through Friday, and that any communication received outside of that window will be addressed the following business day. Imagine if a high-strung client texts you at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning because they noticed a minor typo in a draft graphic, and you immediately reply to fix it. You might think you are providing excellent customer service, but psychologically, you have just completely destroyed your boundary. You have subconsciously taught that business owner that your time is not valuable, and that you are constantly at their beck and call. A highly paid cardiac surgeon does not answer text messages from patients on a Sunday morning regarding minor discomfort, and neither does an elite digital consultant. By enforcing these rigid boundaries during the onboarding phase, You train the client to respect your specialized expertise and your operational protocols. You have successfully navigated the psychological friction of the post-sale window. You have securely gathered the necessary technical assets, and you have established absolute operational dominance through strict communication boundaries. Your consulting infrastructure is now fully built and perfectly insulated. However, all of this magnificent structural preparation is entirely useless if the actual product you deploy into the marketplace fails to perform. You now face the monumental task of actually engineering the digital assets that will drive measurable revenue for your new client. The Internet of 2026 is a ruthless, hyper-saturated battleground controlled by deeply complex machine learning algorithms that instantly penalize boring, generic content. How do you construct digital campaigns that mathematically guarantee prolonged viewer retention, trigger localized algorithmic sharing, and force the platforms to aggressively push your client to the very top of their target demographic feed, without relying on massive advertising budgets? That precise framework for algorithmic exploitation and high-conversion content architecture is exactly what we must systematically dissect next. The fundamental reality of the digital landscape in 2026 is that social media algorithms are no longer chronological content feeds. They are highly sophisticated, behavioral recommendation engines engineered to maximize human attention and keep users on the platform for as long as possible. If you are charging a client a massive monthly retainer to produce highly polished, aesthetically perfect graphics that look like digital brochures, you are actively destroying their reach. The algorithm completely ignores corporate propaganda. It does not care about your client's new logo, it does not care about their generic holiday greetings, and it certainly does not care about a static image announcing a 10% discount. In this hyper-competitive attention economy, the algorithm only rewards one specific currency, and that currency is deep, prolonged viewer retention coupled with high-value interaction signals like localized sharing and saving. To exploit this architecture, you must completely abandon traditional advertising methodologies and transition your client into a highly localized, educational media company. Imagine if you are consulting for a large residential heating and air conditioning contractor based in Phoenix, Arizona. It is early June, the temperature is rapidly climbing, and the business owner wants you to post a high-definition photograph of their fleet of branded trucks with a caption telling people to call for a summer tune-up. If you execute that strategy, the post will reach exactly 0 new potential customers because it provides absolutely 0 intrinsic value to the viewer. Now, imagine you completely pivot the strategy. You instruct the lead technician to take out his smartphone, stand in front of a heavily clogged, failing air conditioning unit in a scorching attic, and record a raw, unedited 60-second video. In the very first 3 seconds of this video, the technician looks directly into the lens and states that this one specific, easily avoidable maintenance mistake is currently costing Phoenix homeowners thousands of dollars in catastrophic compressor failures this July. He then physically demonstrates how to check the specific capacitor that is causing the issue. You are no longer posting an advertisement. You are deploying highly localized, highly actionable consumer utility. When you deploy this exact type of content, the algorithmic response is immediate and mathematically predictable. Homeowners in the specific geo-fenced region of Phoenix watch the video multiple times because the information is highly relevant to their immediate environment and their personal financial security. They instantly share the video with their spouses, their neighbors, and their local community groups. They save the video to their personal devices to reference later when they check their own units. These specific actions, the prolonged watch time, the localized sharing, and the direct saving trigger massive positive feedback loops within the machine learning algorithm. The platform immediately identifies this piece of content as hyper-valuable to users in the Phoenix demographic, and it aggressively pushes the video to tens of thousands of local homeowners completely free of charge. You have essentially hacked the organic distribution system by prioritizing raw, educational value over polished corporate messaging. To fully grasp the massive potential outcomes of this specific framework, we must analyze a recent historical trend involving a consultant named Michael, who operates out of Chicago, Illinois. Michael secured a consulting contract with a mid-sized boutique personal injury law firm. Historically, this firm was spending tens of thousands of dollars on massive highway billboards and incredibly boring social media posts featuring pictures of their attorneys holding legal textbooks, accompanied by dense captions quoting obscure state statutes. They were generating zero digital traction and their client acquisition cost was astronomically high. Michael stepped in and completely dismantled their content architecture. He understood that consumers do not engage with legal marketing until the exact moment they experience a catastrophic event, but they will heavily engage with localized educational content that demystifies intimidating, high-stakes situations. Michael instituted a strict short-form video protocol. He positioned the managing partner in front of a simple smartphone camera and crafted highly specific, localized scripts based on high-volume search queries. Instead of quoting the law, the attorney recorded a rapid-fire, highly engaging video explaining exactly what a driver should do in the first 24 hours after a fender bender on the notoriously dangerous Dan Ryan Expressway in Chicago to ensure the insurance company does not automatically deny their claim. Another video meticulously broke down the 3 things you must never say to an insurance adjuster over the phone if you slip and fall in a commercial grocery store during the Chicago winter. These videos were strictly educational, carefully avoiding giving specific, actionable legal advice to specific individuals, and instead focusing entirely on broad, historical trends regarding insurance company behavior and general best practices. The results were completely staggering, because Michael Geo targeted the content strictly to the Chicago metropolitan area, and because the information was profoundly valuable and inherently controversial regarding insurance tactics, the videos achieved massive localized velocity. Viewers were saving the videos to their phones in case of an emergency, and sharing them with their teenage children who were just learning how to drive. Michael transformed the law firm from a faceless corporate entity into the highly authoritative, aggressively helpful legal protectors of the local community. The firm experienced a massive influx of high-intent inbound phone calls from clients who already felt a deep psychological connection to the attorneys because they had consumed hours of their educational content. Michael did not use a massive production crew, he did not rent expensive lighting equipment, and he did not spend a single dollar on organic distribution. He simply engineered the exact type of content the algorithm is desperate to promote. This brings us to the most critical component of the content architecture, which is the invisible transition from algorithmic attention to measurable business revenue. Generating a viral video that reaches 1 million people in another country is completely useless to a local brick-and-mortar business in the United States. Your content must contain a highly specific, localized conversion mechanism. You are not asking the viewer to simply like and subscribe. You are strategically embedding lead generation triggers directly into the educational payload. At the end of the video demonstrating the air conditioning failure, the technician explicitly states that if the viewer lives in the specific target county and wants a comprehensive, no-obligation diagnostic check of that exact failing component, they can click the specific link in the profile to be routed directly to the priority scheduling calendar. You are bridging the gap between free education and trackable, localized commerce. You have successfully diagnosed the client's business, you have negotiated a high-ticket retainer, you have completely overhauled their digital infrastructure, and you have deployed a highly advanced content architecture that is actively exploiting the algorithm and generating massive local attention. The leads are beginning to flow, the phones are ringing, and the client is finally experiencing the exact digital renaissance you promised during the initial consultation. However, this exact moment of triumph is simultaneously the most vulnerable and dangerous phase of your entire consulting business. If you simply sit back and assume the client recognizes your brilliant work, you will be violently replaced. Business owners suffer from aggressive institutional amnesia. When their revenue skyrockets, they will instinctively attribute that massive success to their own superior product, their excellent sales team, or simply a seasonal shift in the market. They will look at your $5,000 monthly invoice and begin to wonder if they actually still need you. If you cannot mathematically, undeniably prove that your specific strategic actions are the sole source of their newly acquired wealth, you will be fired the moment they look to cut expenses. You must build an impenetrable, completely objective reporting and attribution architecture that forces the client to physically see the exact return on their investment every single month. How to construct this data-driven fortress and guarantee long-term client retention is exactly what we must meticulously uncover next. To construct this data-driven fortress, you must completely eradicate the concept of trust from your professional vocabulary. In the high-stakes environment of digital consulting in the year 2026, you never ask a client to simply trust that your strategies are working, and you certainly never rely on their subjective feelings about the recent increase in foot traffic. You must operate with the cold, unforgiving precision of an actuary. When a local business experiences a sudden surge in gross revenue, a psychological phenomenon known as institutional amnesia immediately takes hold of the owner. They will look at their packed waiting room or their fully booked service calendar, And their ego will instantly construct a narrative that attributes this massive success to their own operational brilliance. They will convince themselves that their new receptionist is simply exceptional at closing deals, or that their recent decision to repaint the exterior of their building is finally drawing in the crowds. If your monthly reporting consists of a generic PDF highlighting an increase in Instagram followers and a higher engagement rate, you are completely defenseless against this ego-driven narrative. They do not care about engagement rates, they care about net profit. If you cannot draw a direct, mathematically undeniable line between your specific digital campaigns and their newly deposited bank revenue, you will be categorized as a disposable overhead expense and swiftly terminated the moment they look to optimize their budget. To permanently insulate your consulting retainer from this precise threat, you must implement a rigid system of closed-loop attribution tracking before a single piece of content is ever published. Imagine if you are managing the digital ecosystem for a high-end custom home builder in Charlotte, North Carolina. The owner, let us call him William, is currently paying you a $7,000 monthly retainer. If a prospective family walks into his model home and eventually signs a $2 million construction contract, William's immediate assumption will be that his highly skilled architectural sales team secured the deal. However, if you have properly architected your data fortress, you will completely rewrite that narrative. You will not let William guess where that family came from. You will utilize advanced, privacy-compliant tracking infrastructure, embedding custom parameters into every single digital asset you deploy. You will establish dedicated, localized call tracking phone numbers that only exist on your specific digital campaigns, and you will construct isolated digital landing pages that cannot be found through standard organic search engine queries. When you sit down with William for your monthly strategic review, you do not casually ask him how business is going. You open a highly structured data dashboard and you force him to look at the exact mathematical reality. You demonstrate that the specific family who just signed the $2 million contract originally engaged with a hyper-targeted, geo-fenced educational video regarding modern kitchen layouts that your firm deployed 34 days ago. You show him the exact time they clicked your tracking link. You show him the exact isolated landing page they visited to download your proprietary local building guide. And you present the recorded phone call they made using your specific tracking number to schedule their initial consultation. You completely remove all ambiguity and subjective opinion. You force William to recognize the undeniable empirical data proving that your $7,000 retainer just directly facilitated a $2 million gross contract. In that exact moment, the psychological dynamic of the entire relationship permanently shifts. You are no longer viewed as a marketing vendor. You are the undisputed, highly valued architect of his most profitable revenue stream. He will never question your monthly invoice again, because firing your consulting firm would mathematically equate to deliberate financial self-sabotage. To solidify this operational dynamic, we must analyze the historical trends of how elite consultants structure their mandatory monthly reporting meetings. The amateur consultant sends an automated, highly ignorable email on the first of the month containing a spreadsheet of vanity metrics and simply hopes the client does not ask too many detailed questions. The elite professional consultant utilizes the monthly reporting meeting as a high-leverage psychological anchor. Let us examine a specific case study involving a consultant named Jessica, who operates in the highly competitive cosmetic dentistry market in Miami, Florida. Jessica secured a massive ongoing contract with Dr. Reynolds, a brilliant surgeon who was historically highly skeptical of digital marketing due to severe past failures with amateur, low-budget agencies. At the end of their first full quarter of collaboration, Jessica did not send an email. She mandated a strict 1-hour in-person strategic review. During this critical meeting, Jessica did not mention the word algorithm, she did not discuss organic reach, and she absolutely did not bring up follower growth. Her presentation was structured identically to a corporate financial earnings report. She opened the meeting by clearly stating the exact amount of capital Drive Reynolds had invested in her consulting fees and direct campaign spend over the past 90 days, which totaled precisely $25,000. She then immediately transitioned to her impenetrable attribution data. She presented a meticulously documented ledger proving that her specific digital architectures had generated exactly 412 highly qualified local leads. She then seamlessly integrated the clinic's own internal patient management software data, proving that 68 of those specific leads had formally converted into paying patients. Finally, she presented the average lifetime value of those specific cosmetic patients, revealing a projected gross revenue generation of over $400,000 directly tied to her campaigns. Jessica concluded her presentation by calmly stating that for every single dollar Dr. Reynolds had invested into her proprietary digital system, the clinic had realized a direct, mathematically proven return of $16. By framing her entire reporting structure around precise metrics like cost per acquisition, return on ad spend, and highly accurate pipeline velocity, Jessica completely insulated herself from any potential future budget cuts. Dr. Reynolds was no longer evaluating Jessica based on her graphic design skills or her video editing capabilities. He was evaluating her entirely on her systematic ability to print massive operational capital for his practice. He immediately signed a 12-month contract extension and eagerly increased his monthly retainer to allow Jessica to aggressively scale the exact same campaigns into neighboring, highly affluent zip codes. This precise, highly clinical reporting framework is the absolute secret to infinite client retention in the United States consulting market. You must aggressively train your clients to view your monthly invoice as the single most profitable financial instrument in their entire corporate portfolio. You must consistently force them to confront the raw data every single month, systematically reminding them of the highly complex, incredibly fragile digital ecosystem you are actively managing and protecting on their behalf. When you consistently prove your massive financial value through unassailable, closed-loop tracking architecture, you entirely eliminate client churn. They will never leave you because they fundamentally understand that they cannot replicate your complex digital systems internally without suffering catastrophic and immediate financial losses. However, as you master this retention architecture and your roster of clients continuously renew their high-ticket contracts, you will inevitably trigger the final, most physically and mentally exhausting crisis of the entire consulting business model. You will quickly accumulate 5, 10, or perhaps 15 highly lucrative clients, each paying you a massive monthly retainer. You will be generating life-changing top-line revenue, but you will have accidentally built yourself a completely inescapable operational prison. You will find yourself working 80 hours a week manually auditing digital accounts, aggressively managing highly demanding business owners, and frantically analyzing complex data spreadsheets at 2 in the morning. You will have successfully transitioned from an underpaid employee to a highly paid, utterly exhausted slave to your own consulting agency. If you do not quickly and ruthlessly implement specialized systems of operational leverage, you will suffer catastrophic physical burnout, the quality of your strategic work will rapidly plummet, and your carefully constructed digital empire will completely collapse upon itself. How do you permanently separate your personal time from your business revenue, aggressively scale your internal operations without sacrificing client quality, and effectively transform your highly profitable consulting practice into an autonomous, self-sustaining corporate machine? The exact blueprint for aggressive operational scaling and strategic team building is precisely what we are going to meticulously uncover in the final phase. The exact blueprint for aggressive operational scaling and strategic team building begins with a brutal psychological realization. The very skills that allowed you to escape the corporate grind and build a highly lucrative, six-figure consulting practice are the exact same skills that will completely destroy you if you attempt to cross the seven-figure threshold alone. You have mastered client acquisition, you have perfected your digital architectures, and you have implemented flawless retention systems. But right now, in the year 2026, you are the single greatest bottleneck in your own enterprise. Every single strategy requires your brain, every single client email requires your keystrokes, and every single advertising campaign requires your final approval. This is not a business. This is a highly compensated prison. To achieve true wealth, which is the complete decoupling of your personal time from your monthly revenue, you must ruthlessly transition from a customized service provider into a rigid, highly systemized corporate machine. Imagine if you are managing digital growth for 15 high-ticket clients across the United States. If you simply attempt to hire a junior employee and verbally tell them to replicate your success, they will fail spectacularly. They do not possess your market intuition or your years of specialized experience. The historical trend among elite consulting firms proves that you cannot scale human intuition. You can only scale hyper-specific, meticulously documented standard operating procedures. Before you ever post a job listing, you must spend one entire month extracting every single repetitive action out of your brain and translating it into an impenetrable internal corporate wiki. You must document exactly how to audit a localized competitor, exactly what specific tracking parameters to embed in a new campaign, and exactly how to format the monthly data reporting dashboard. You are building an intellectual assembly line. Let us examine a highly specific case study of a consultant named Marcus operating out of Austin, Texas. Marcus hit a massive operational ceiling at 12 clients. He was generating incredible revenue, but his physical health was rapidly deteriorating due to severe sleep deprivation. Marcus realized his fatal error was attempting to hire creative personnel first. He thought hiring a video editor would save him time, but he ended up spending hours micromanaging the edits. Instead, Marcus executed a massive structural pivot. The very first role he hired was not an editor or a media buyer. It was a highly organized, client-facing account manager. This is the ultimate operational shield. Marcus trained this account manager entirely on his newly constructed standard operating procedures. The account manager was legally restricted from doing any actual strategic digital work. Their sole corporate function was to intercept every single incoming client communication, manage the strict project timelines, and facilitate the monthly reporting meetings using the exact scripts Marcus had already perfected. By successfully inserting this human shield into his corporate hierarchy, Marcus instantly reclaimed 40 hours a week of his own personal time. His clients were absolutely thrilled because they now had a dedicated, highly responsive point of contact who answered every inquiry within 10 minutes, while Marcus retreated into the shadows to focus exclusively on high-level strategy and aggressive new client acquisition. With his communication bottleneck completely destroyed, Marcus then initiated phase 2 of his scaling architecture, which involved building a decentralized, highly specialized execution team. In the modern digital economy, you do not need to lease a massive commercial office space and hire expensive, full-time local employees with bloated benefit packages. You build a lean, distributed network of elite independent contractors who are strictly compensated based on performance outcomes. Marcus hired a dedicated media buyer based in Chicago whose only responsibility was to monitor the advertising dashboards and optimize the cost per acquisition metrics every 12 hours. He hired a specialized direct response copywriter in Denver who exclusively wrote the localized video scripts. Because Marcus had already built the rigid standard operating procedures, these contractors were not guessing. They were simply executing his exact methodology. Furthermore, Marcus structured their compensation to deeply align with his own corporate goals. He paid them a baseline retainer for their time, but he attached aggressive performance bonuses directly tied to client retention. If a client renewed their contract at the end of the quarter, the execution team received a direct percentage of that renewal. This completely eliminated the need for Marcus to constantly monitor their work ethic. His team was financially incentivized to treat every single client account like their own personal business. This distributed architecture is then completely cemented together by a highly aggressive automation technology stack. In 2026, human beings should never be manually copying and pasting data from a digital advertising platform into a spreadsheet. Marcus utilized advanced application programming interfaces to directly connect his client advertising accounts to his centralized data dashboards. The software automatically aggregated the local lead flow, calculated the return on ad spend in real time, and generated the highly clinical monthly reporting presentations without a single human keystroke. This level of technological leverage allowed Marcus to manage 50 high-ticket clients with the exact same overhead and operational friction he previously experienced when managing only 12. When you implement this exact tripartite framework of rigid standard operating procedures, dedicated client communication shields, and decentralized, performance-driven execution teams, your entire reality completely shifts. You are no longer a social media consultant. You are the chief executive officer of a highly specialized digital infrastructure firm. You spend your days analyzing macroeconomic trends, forming strategic partnerships with other large regional agencies, and flying out to close massive corporate contracts, while your internal machine flawlessly executes the day-to-day digital labor. Your potential outcomes are no longer limited by the amount of hours you can stay awake. They are strictly determined by the volume of highly qualified leads your machine can process. However, as your agency scales to this monumental level, and you begin accumulating millions of dollars in liquid corporate capital, a completely new and highly complex financial dilemma emerges. You cannot simply leave massive amounts of cash depreciating in a standard commercial checking account, and you cannot haphazardly invest it back into volatile advertising platforms without a rigorous corporate treasury strategy. You must learn how to protect that capital from aggressive tax liabilities, how to legally structure holding companies, and how to transition from simply generating active income into acquiring massive passive equity in the very businesses you are consulting for. How do you deploy your new agency wealth to start buying up local commercial real estate, acquiring struggling competitors, and transforming your consulting firm into a diversified, multinational private equity vehicle? The exact blueprint for elite corporate wealth management and high-level agency acquisitions is precisely what we must meticulously uncover next.